Hey everybody, Chris Hoeskstra here alongside Sam Nankani in anticipation of Next Generation Combat. Sam, it's great to be here in London, man.
Yeah, nice to see you, Chris. Yeah, good. Looking forward to NGC5 coming up soon.
So it's fight week. It's
That's
always
right.
interesting when you're organizing these fights and you've always got a whole lot going on. What can people expect when they come down to the show on Saturday?
I think people can expect quality fights. They can expect a good, knowledgeable audience that supports the fighters. They can expect a good clash of styles. Yeah, so we've got some good boxing bouts, Muay Thai bouts, and K1 bouts as well. A lot of K1 bouts actually.
I can't wait. So I'll get the privilege of being there on the call, but one thing that's really interesting to me, and I know that we spoke about this previously, as a commentator, you're always fascinated with what happens in the ring, in those minutes of competition, but I'm also very curious what happens outside of it. And one thing that really struck me when watching your fighters compete, win or lose, with consistency, they always seem to show a lot of those core values of martial arts: honor and respect, integrity, camaraderie, working together. Is that something that you want to bring to the show now that you're organizing it yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's what I believe martial arts to be, and that's what got me into it in the first place. Even from a young age, really, it's that way of life of a martial artist or a true martial artist. So just because we're having competition doesn't mean we can't relate that to the audience and relate that to each other as to what we do and what it really stands for.
Now, it was also interesting to me, I think we spoke, it must have been at least half a year ago. And it was after a couple of your fighters competed on the night. And as you know, I'm all over the world and sometimes all over the UK covering shows. And I was curious to know a little bit more about your backstory and kind of how you approach things in the gym on that topic of what happens inside the ring and what happens outside it. Mm-hmm. And we ended up chatting, I remember, for at least a good 30, 45 minutes. And you told me some stories about how when you were a young boy and when you became fascinated with martial arts and you were drawing pictures, you were watching things in nature, you were analyzing things, you were thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Is that something that you may be able to be looking forward to showing on the night when your guys compete and look to see how those styles match up? Because you mentioned that's one thing that the audience is going to be looking for when they come to see Next Generation Combat.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what the story I'm trying to tell, really, regards to my fighters and the fighting style that I've kind of developed as well. I've always been fascinated with sort of styles of fights and thinking outside the box, just studying things from young, watching martial art movies and having access. Really, I had access to watching movies because my family owned cinemas. So as a young kid, I could actually look through the projector and see the films being played and kind of look into the audience and see when someone pulls off a good move and what have you. So also when you said about studying nature and everything else as well, where we lived when I was younger in Ghana as well, the back was kind of like a forest. It was in between a city and sort of like in between a city, a town, and a sort of village. And I remember one time even I physically saw my cat fighting off a snake, and I would literally sit and watch, just fascinating. The cat killed the snake in the end, but just watching how it managed to sort of overcome the snake. And I would always often relate to that when I would see a kung fu movie, maybe trying to say a similar story as to a fighter studying maybe a cat style to defeat a snake. And so I would get that concept because maybe I've seen it myself. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Also, my fascination with martial arts, even as a kid, I remember when I would go to our family store, instead of running around looking for sweets and what have you, I would go to where they would be. They would have the actual the film itself. They'll be preparing for bringing it out in cinema, and whenever they'll see me, they would give me I've forgotten the name of it. The actual
the
reel. So eventually, what happened is they had they created a small room for Sam because I was so excited about martial arts that they would give me a room with a projector, and obviously my favorite fighter was Bruce Lee. So I would say, when's the next Bruce Lee film? They would give me the actual, and I would do it myself and watch and slow it down. So I would watch every single movement of Bruce Lee, perhaps before a film is even out, in Ghana, so to speak. So I think subconsciously, I was playing as a kid. You're like a sponge, so I was actually playing a lot of the stuff in my head, the movements and stuff, and sucking it all in, and what have you. Yeah.
Now, it's always interesting to hear kind of the inspiration.
Yeah.
It fascinates me behind how people got into martial arts, because as a broadcast commentator, I've been so fortunate to be able to see the journey in many different disciplines. Your gym is known as a very good kickboxing gym in particular, and I pressed you on this, I think, one time when I saw some of the things that your fighters were doing, because in K1 rules kickboxing, as it's often called, you get guys with a karate background or more of a boxing background or more of a Muay Thai background. And you explained to me that you look to teach things with respect to the traditions of different styles in kickboxing and stand-up fighting, but also with some adaptations. Can you comment further on that without giving away too many of the trade secrets?
Yeah, without giving away too many trade secrets, I'll go a little bit deeper. I'll give you an example. So, for example, when after as a young lad, I would watch, say, a film of Bruce Lee or whoever back in the day. Sometimes, even at the cinema, there'll suddenly be an argument between some guys, or just after I come out of the cinema, and there'll be, a physical fight between, two African warriors, and someone will take the other one down, or someone will smash someone's head in the gutter and people will stop it, and it'll be quite brutal. And then I would, on my way home, be analyzing, saying to myself, so if Bruce Lee was right here, because obviously I'm looking at the character, but in my mind as a young lad, I'm saying, if that character is real to me, so if he had to fight this person right now, would what he's doing work? How would that adjust to this guy who's just coming with brute force, trying to lift you up and slam your head on the floor? So I'll be questioning things, and hence why, that question you asked before, that I used to draw stuff. Sometimes after, as a young lad, sometimes you're just going to get into a fight, having to defend yourself. So sometimes after, I would draw myself certain moves and say, okay, so, if that guy came to swing at me next time, would that side kick work? Or how could I do it quicker? How could I land it quicker? So I've always sort of been fascinated with having to adapt a martial art style or martial art technique to real combat on the street, in the ring, anywhere, in the lift, on the park, what would work. So it cannot be a static rule. Mm-hmm. It has to be an adaptation. Mm-hmm. So hence why I really enjoy K1 as well, because you're getting to meet other styles, because all strikes score the same, punches, kicks, knees, whatever, because I was developing a lot of the stuff for myself for self-defense. Now I have to think, okay, if punches score the same, or I got to be quicker with the hands. I can't just focus on maybe Thai, which is slower, mm-hmm, with the big rib kicks. Now I can be, so I find that K1 relates to even what I was trying to create for Muay Thai, being adapted to a quicker pace on the street. Mm-hmm. So therefore, everything I was kind of developing in my head can be expressed even more so in K1, mm-hmm, so to speak, and hence maybe why the beauty of it is coming out.
And do you think it was a case then of trying to optimize some of the traditional approaches to stand up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of loads of things. A combination of the traditional martial art being applicable to modern, being applicable to the Western style of fighting. So just taking the elements and adjusting it, without giving too much away. I always hear people saying, forget the traditional martial arts, it doesn't work. And then other people will say the modern combat is just brutal, or it's for the ring or whatever. But how about this? How's about merging the traditional concepts of martial arts? For example, distracting an opponent for a second, right? So maybe doing this for a second, and you think, what's going on here? And then still landing that head kick. So what about actually appreciating, bringing the traditions of the old martial arts and certain concept with the modern brutal force that's needed in full combat?
I'm fascinated, and I cannot wait to hear more. Well, I'm going to hold it there because we've got plenty more coming up on the broadcast Saturday night, and I look forward to speaking with you, some of the other athletes from the show. We've got people from, an international stable of fighters, people from lots of different backgrounds. I cannot wait to see the clash of styles in boxing and Muay Thai and kickboxing. Sam, I know that we can follow everything online. 2 Facebook pages. Is it Next Generation Combat and KO Next Generation?
Yep, perfect. Yep.
And of course, the broadcast will be available in the first half for free on our Facebook pages. I'll be hosting the show. You'll hear from plenty of others on the night, including my broadcast partners. And of course, the pay-per-view is on Fight. That's FITE.tv. Sam, any last words for the fans?
I'll say look out for 2 fights in particular. Tyrell versus, I think, Enzo from Lloyd's Haven Combat Academy. It's going to be a real good clash of styles. I think Enzo's more very traditional, orthodox boxing. And Terrell obviously is from this gym, and he's very unpredictable with his movements. And also the final fight between Stefan and I've forgotten the other person's name, but it's a clash of, the other gentleman is
a karate fighter, isn't he?
Karate national champion, Scottish national champion, and obviously Stefan is schooled in my style, but also in Muay Thai as well. So really, just look at it as Muay Thai versus karate on a K1 rule set. So look forward to those 2 fights as well. All the other fights will be good as well, good international fights, but I'm interested myself to see those 2 fights. Yeah.
Well, sounds good, Sam. I know we've got some special announcements and other treats on the night, but for all of that, you'll have to wait for Saturday evening in Next Generation Combat 5. For Chris Hoeskstra, Sam Nankani, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in just a few days' time.